Okay, so I think that's enough of that. Hello, I'm sorry I was trying to respond to some folks, but hello and welcome. Thanks very much for coming in today. Um, I got a bunch of folks on, and I was just trying to, get back to them and stuff like that, and say thanks. Sorry, I late shower, so my hair is just gonna go. I'm gonna have a fro by the end of it, so that should be fun. Today, I think we have a great show because I'm going to switch over. I'm going to show you this stuff. We're going to talk about the little prairie dog diorama that I did and how that came about. I think that'll be a lot of fun. It's not quite done, and it's going to be something that I got a little painting on, and Mrs. Muddlecraft has claimed this. I do not have first right of refusal. She does. And so Mrs. Modelcraft is going to be the recipient of this. But there was a very specific reason I built it, and we'll talk about that. And I've also got some great, inspiring channels I want to talk to you about today. My friend Chris at The American Genius. We're going to look at links. Link Scale Models. He's a car builder, great guy out on the East Coast. Thomas Montgomery is a gentleman that I just saw, here in the last couple of weeks, and just amazed. I think you're going to be amazed as well. I'm going to leave it at that. And then Mad Genius Productions Joe is a really fun modeler, and I first saw Mad Genius Productions. They commented on the show and stuff like that, and some posts and stuff. And then I'm like, every once in a while I get a chance to do this. I go and I take a look, at his channel and stuff. And then he became a member, of the channel. So I went to Joe's site. Holy cow. Joe's got a whole bunch, does a whole bunch of like group builds and stuff. So great community, and looks like a real big participant in that kind of stuff. Really fun modeling. So we're going to look at those four modelers today. And then let's see what else I got. We're also going to talk about the great responses that I had yesterday. I'm trying to advance this darn thing. Why are you not advancing? I'm trying to make this. I have had this issue for a little bit now of it not advancing when we're live, and I don't know why. So it just like, I don't know, it doesn't want to advance. But yesterday I asked the question. I said, "What do you guys want to see? What do you want to see when I'm not exactly building? I am, here doing stuff, but I do a lot of editing today. And we're going to talk about some videos that are just releasing and all that kind of stuff, and one that I posted last night for the members area. But the whole point is sometimes I'm not modeling, and I want to communicate, and I want to show you stuff that you want to see. So I asked the question, gosh, when I'm not modeling, I don't have a current project, and I'm editing, 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 modeling. So maybe editing is a word. No, it's not. So I'm editing of model building, but I don't really have any progress shots. So these are great ideas for alternate things for me to post about. And that's what I'm going to start doing. And so I made a list, but some of them were really fun. And I want to talk about them today, and we'll show some of those. And I also have some answers to some of those questions, like what are some of my favorite tools? What are these things? Friend online said, "What are these things?" I think they're kind of fun. They're shot glasses, by the way. And also, what are my what are my favorite tools? Link asked this one. What are my favorite tools if like I'm in a small apartment, and I want to do diorama building? And what are my favorite tools for that? And such a great question. I really wanted to take my time and answer that one, as well as show you some of the tools that I use. I even did a little bit of testing with, cutting with different things. If you don't have, like I use a table saw to cut pink foam, right, for diorama building. Well, not everybody has a table saw or has the access to one, or the possibility of maybe buying one. So what is an alternate? So I looked at hand saws, cannot recommend it. I guess in some issues, but we'll look at that. This works great. We're going to talk about this little guy. But, well, and I've got pictures of these other things, but we'll also talk about what I think is great for working with foam. It's not cheap, but there are, things that you can buy that aren't at this level. It's this guy. It's the Proxon wire table, I guess. And it's a hot wire that goes down, and so it's almost just like cutting on a table saw. It's got a fence. You can do angles. You can do, bevels. You can do all kinds of sorts with it, stuff with it. And it's small enough that you can store it on a shelf, under a desk, in a cabinet, something like that. And so I think that's wonderful. But they also have handles. Anyway, we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff, and we're going to get deep into that because I want to show you the tests I did and stuff like that. But firstus, I think we're gonna go over here. I want to answer a couple of more because some more folks popped in. Hey, Will's here. Hello, thanks very much. Jordy Models came in. Will came in. Will, I'm sorry, I did not get any pictures of your website this time. I want to do this kind of weekly, maybe once. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I would love to get some of your stuff because you're doing that haunted house and it's very, very cool. So, Will, we got to get you in here next time. Daniel, hello, Daniel. How's it going? Very nice to see you. Great Friday. Greetings for all. Thanks very much for coming in. Hey, folks, I am really bad at this. If you could subscribe if you like it, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. I'm learning these YouTube ways to try to. I don't know what I'm trying to do, but these are things I must say. What else? We're gonna talk about videos. Yes, I got to go over here because this thing is not advancing properly, and then I got to do that. But these are some videos that I just posted. So in the members area, the top one, that is building a display base. And so that's fully uploaded in the members area. So you can go there and see that. It's not going to come out like to generally, Gen Pop, I don't know what you say, but to everybody for, I think 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, it'll come out. But this other one, part 2 of West Texas Foliage, that comes out tomorrow. So on the channel, what I do is when I'm building my videos, all this editing that I'm doing, I edit it and then I upload it to the members area, and then it sits in the members area, and then all the members, and it's that $3 thing, on YouTube. And then I have some news about that too. But anyway, so you can pay there and you see these earlier before they come out for everybody. Plus there's other things I'm putting in there because the other thing that I'm doing is, not that, but my Patreon is moving to YouTube. So this is not because I didn't really like Patreon. It's more because Patreon tried to be something else from when I started. And I don't think I was putting up the right videos or content or whatever. I mean, I looked, there's like 200 and some odd things posted up there. But what I'm doing now is I'm going to turn that off on September 1. I've already, stopped the billing. I did that last month. So it's been a month now that it hasn't billed anybody, and it won't because it's going away. But what I'm hoping is folks will, I've already had a lot of people say, yeah, I'm coming over. What I'm hoping is folks will come over at that time to YouTube, and then they're going to have access to everything there. So my members area on YouTube here is really changing and being upgraded. So there's going to be a lot. So that's where I have this kind of thing, my diorama coaching and diorama coaching and mentoring. So this is where I conduct my sessions and my classes and stuff like that with Bob. Bob's on here today. And I build videos, and these are really cool because these videos that I'm doing these days are specific to someone I'm working with, in this case, Bob. And Bob will say, I really want to see this. This is a thing that I've not been able to find all the information online about that I want to see. or it's just something that he just likes working with me and wants me to see. So I'll do that with Bob and for Bob, and in that I'll create a video so that then he can watch it again and again and again. Well, the delivery portal for that is the members area. I was gonna do YouTube, or I was gonna do Patreon for that, but it didn't work out. Bob's access to YouTube is really easy and much more preferred. So I'm moving everything over there, partly because of that, because I think it just works well. But also because I think YouTube is taking, the cue from Patreon, and so it's now got kind of things like Patreon. So you can have a members area and a community that you grow, and a special area where we can communicate, and I post stuff just for folks there, but also, pre allowing stuff to come out to everybody. So anyway, I get very confused with it, and I'm hoping I have confused you as much as I am confused with it, so that we're all on the same level playing field here. So that was my whole purpose, apparently. So anyway, that is where all the videos eventually go. Some will be available to everybody. Some will be early views for everybody views, and some will maintain their exclusivity within that, behind that paywall on the membership area. So I'm really happy to do it. And because I think for me, having just this one thing is just enough. Man, I tried doing all these different things that they say to do, where you're supposed to have, this for that set of folks, and you have multiple whatever, I don't know. Man, it just, because that content is just so different. And I'm kind of doing what I want here, and I hope that's okay. I think for the folks that get it, it is. For the folks that don't get it, I'm trying to, show them, hey, this is where you can do this kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm just talking at this point. So Sully's scale models are here. Hello, Bill and all. Now Sully's been around for a little bit now, which is really cool. I started seeing Sully come on, and I went to Sully's channel this week when I was doing it. I had so many people that, I already had 4 people to show this week, so I couldn't bring Sully's up. But we want to look at Sully's stuff too, because I think that looking at other channels is something that I resisted for a long, long time. And the reason was simple. I didn't want to be overly influenced by somebody I was so enamored with. Does that make sense? One of my first people that really got me going in this was Andy's Hobbies headquarters, right? And Andy Klein, guy's just fantastic. And I just love his videos. And he has a very, very specific way of editing, a very, very specific way of doing his stuff, which is great. But it wasn't my thing. I wanted to kind of produce videos, because when I started doing videos, I started feeling like it was another way to create. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, I'm building this story, or I'm painting this picture. I don't paint pictures, but you know what I'm saying? It's another avenue to get something fun out. So I really dove into it. I wasn't just showing you how to build a model or showcase a model like Andy does. So I was like, great. I mean, he showed me, literally, he's the gentleman that showed me how to do sanded grout on pink foam to do a diorama. Prior to that, I had not been able to build a diorama. I had tried, did not work. When I saw Andy's Hobby headquarters, that literally launched me into diorama building. So that's the thing that I want to do. I want to share other people's channels that I have recently seen, and some folks I've seen for a long time, friends, that are out there for a long time, that I think are very, very inspirational. And I hope you can take a look at these folks' channels too. So that's coming up a little bit later on. I'm going to pop over here again. So Patreon is moving. That's fine. So let's talk about this. This, if I can do it, it's not working. It's just such a weird thing. As I mentioned last week, I'm on a beta version of it's like Tahoe or something like that. It's like 15 something, whatever, on the Apple OS, and stuff's a bit funky. I'll put it that way. If you're thinking about doing it, stuff's a little funky. I'll just leave it at that. And then Sully says, yeah, man, it's like a hobby within a hobby. And it is, you get into it. I got into this because, number one, I literally got into this because during COVID, I can't sit still. I can't just, I'm one of them people. I get energized to get online here, right? To do the live stream and stuff, because it's fun and it's exciting and you're talking to friends and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going over the week and I'm showing you things that I'm hoping are going to inspire you. So I get really excited and really animated. But I do the same thing just during the day when I learn something on Final Cut Pro, my editing software, or if I go to somebody's website and I get excited about that. So it's really weird not to be able to share that kind of stuff because my primary focus is scale models and diorama building. So that's one of the reasons I'm really wanting to share stuff, because these other folks out there are also doing things that are within modeling, but they're doing it in their own way, and they're doing it in such a way that I think other people could connect with them, and that could be your primary channel. I mean, just bam, just like that. So anyway, let's get on with it. When I started last week, I had me a task, and that task was I needed to show Bob how to do some sides. And what I mean by sides are, I've said these before, I'll use like a sample piece or a sample during my training classes to build on, and that's what this is. So it's just a piece, kind of a junky piece of foam that I had laying around that I'd done a few different things on already. And what I wanted to do, and I talked about this last week, was I wanted to take the top of this and kind of just do a little bit broader terrain. And in doing so, in discussing it with, my student Bob, I keep saying Bob because I just do so much with Bob, sorry. And he's great. He's a great guy. So we're talking about it, and he's like, what I'd really also like to see is, if I don't want the side of my diorama painted black, which is classically what I do, I like the just kind of, that cutaway look where you just paint the side black. Sometimes I'll also, on bigger dioramas, I'll put like a fascia over it, but it's kind of complex and all kinds of stuff. So Bob said, look, what about, because we kind of were just kind of spitballing, what can we do? What should we do? And Bob's like, well, what about just paint it like it's cutaway dirt, just dirt, and that was the idea that stuck, right? And so that's what this became. And I had done that on a previous diorama, my World War I trench diorama. And so that's what this started out as. I just needed to show Bob how to do this. And the process is very simple. And as you might imagine, it's in a video that's being produced. But I did that, and you basically you press them in, and then you pull them out, and then you glue them, and then you press them in again in the little depression they made, and then you glue these guys in using scenic glue. And then after that, I said, well, it's kind of a plain side, right? Let's go ahead here. I've got a different. Later on, I'll show you. So later on, we get to here, and I think it looks fine, right? I've put the dirt over it, so it looks like dirt. That's the sanded grout and Mod Podge. I've painted it kind of with striations, lines going through it with, and this is important, with the same base colors that we've been using for our entire Rock Cut Road project. Now, that's another project that we've been working on for a month and a half. And by using these same three base colors, I'm always able to return and make things match, even though I've been doing brand new stuff on the model or on the dioramas that we've been working on together. I can always come back and I can match paints, and so it's just one of the things that we do. So anyway, that was kind of cool. But let me back up now. So then I decided, okay, I'm gonna not just make it these sides because they are kind of plain. I'm gonna put something in the sides, which is this, a little, kind of like a prairie dog den or something like that. And I figured out it's called a prairie dog house. It's not a burrow or whatever, but it's a house. And so on top, I just drilled a couple of holes and then did these little side deals and put some of the sanded grout in there as well to try to make it look like it was burrowed. And then I started on these guys. So this is Dowell, and this guy, to me, if anybody, I don't know if you're over 40, knows Caddyshack, this reminds me of the gopher in Caddyshack. But I was trying to make a prairie dog that sits up, above ground, above their little mound, whatever. And so I carved that out of some 1/4-inch dowel. So then I came back and I did another one because I needed something in the tunnel. Remember, the tunnel's up here. I needed something in there. And so here is another one that's supposed to be crawling. I also wanted to try to incorporate the tail. I did not do a tail on the prairie dog that's out because he's like sitting on his tail. I don't know. I just didn't do one. But I did do a tail here. And then I was able to, oops, I'm trying to get the right picture. I was able to paint them. Very simple paint job. And plunk them right in there. So that's them inside there. I also did, here's the little one inside. And my painting is the number one thing that I'm not done with on this yet. Mrs. Modelcraft, who has first right of refusal on all these, she is going to get this. But I've got to finish the painting, and I'm still filming. I'm still doing stuff for Bob on a video that, about how to do this process. Because I think, making these little things, I think they're fun and interesting. I think that adds something that in the overall scope of your diorama, it is something that will excite people. It's something they can find. It's like an Easter egg, like Will was saying, Jordy Models. Will was saying that previously last week on something. It is kind of like a surprise that if they find it, number one, they're going to look for other stuff. They're going to start looking more intently. There's like, well, what else in here is that? Don't disappoint your viewer. Don't make that the only thing. But this is kind of a fun thing. So in the larger aspect of a bigger diorama, adding little things like this, I believe, really make it fun. Really make it something that's really going to tie a memory to it much after somebody first views it. So that's why I do these kind of things. So look in there. I've got those little guys in there. I did do some like little bedding and stuff like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some little, like one curled up. That didn't come out very well, that picture. I'll do like one curled up and maybe some little baby ones down here, some pinkies like they used to call them. And then the guy on top is just there. And if we do a little bird's eye view, you can see I did the little holes. Now, the whole point of this was to show, and I'm going to go to a side view here, that the soil is supposed to be like wetter down below. That's what the darkness is. And around the holes, there's more humidity in there. That's why I kind of did that. It kind of fades up from the bottom like that. But then I've got, these holes here under this guy, and I did the light color. So I haven't finished that. I haven't figured that out yet. I do need a stark difference there to show their little mound. I think that's part of the, trick in the eye, trying to make the little story work. But I haven't figured that out yet. So again, there's a lot of painting. And then the other thing I would say about this in regards to painting, looking at this surface, well, I guess you don't have to look at me. Looking at this surface, it looks fine. But I think I need to pick out more little bumps as rocks. And you know what I mean by that? Taking just a real small, brush, and then use, like, in the three colors that I use for this, deck tan, yellow ochre, and light rust. Use one or a combination of those to then make little tiny dots in there. It's almost like a star field, but all you're doing is you're calling out those little bumps, those little irregularities as rocks, not just soil, clumps or whatever. And I think that's going to add to it, because after looking at it and what's going on, it's a little lacking in rock. You know what I'm saying? It just might look better with a few more rocks. But anyway, yeah, a little bit of painting, and I think that one's done. So that was very fun. That was a little side project that I'm doing something as an example. I'm doing something to show my student what, a technique or how to do it. But it just turned into something, and that's something that I always talk about in that kind of I don't know what word did I use before. It's not ergonomic, but it's just this natural way of allowing these ideas to flourish. Don't be so stringent in your idea of what you're doing that when you get a good idea, you can't go with it. Organic is the word that I was looking for. It's an organic way of building. I don't really start by planning everything out. Sure, I've drawn and sketched, and a lot of times I do it right on the right on the pink foam or whatever. Sure, I mean that's kind of like trying to do that. But what I don't do is I don't completely conceptualize and draw down and go into CAD and do that kind of stuff. It's just not the way I do it. I like to have a good idea of where I'm going. But if I get inspiration, if I get an idea, kind of riffing or building off of what I just built, that sometimes gives me such a fun thing with whatever I'm building that it keeps the motivation high. It keeps the excitement going. It says, wow, this is kind of fun. This did not, I'm working on a long diorama, maybe. My last one was a year. It's those little moments that can breathe a little bit of life into something that can actually become a bit mundane. When you figure out your diorama and you are working toward that, and maybe it is complex and maybe it does have a lot of things going on, it seems odd, but yeah, there can be a little bit of a grind to that. A little bit of mundane activity. It's like, oh, I got to get this is knocked out. By having a little something like this, a little something where you just take a little area within your diorama, because it's pretty small. This could be added to pretty much anything. It's almost like you're taking a break. It's almost like a little vacation from it. I'm not saying building dioramas should be a job, or I think it's a job. It is my job, but I don't view it that way. I think it's a creative process for some people that have a little bit more of that right brain thing where they're very super focused and they're very task oriented, and they're able to focus on a task to its completion. And if that should be a diorama and you're already set with everything, that might not allow you to add those organic inspirations along the way in. You may kind of hold off on doing that. And it's just one of the things that I've said for a long, long time now. I really think that can help you get beyond some of the things that can hold you up in a diorama. I don't feel like working on it tonight. I mean, that could seriously happen. If you're doing 15 figures and you've been painting for 3 days, you could say, I don't want to paint figures tonight. You know what I'm saying? So it is those times where, yeah, you're not working on it, so you're not making progress, and overall, that's maybe not what you want. And so having something else that progresses the diorama, progresses the idea, and even opens up ideas to make it more interesting, boy, go with it. Go organic. Allow yourself to take those little steps, into that new idea. These ideas, and here's something cautionary. Even if you say, okay, I'm going to do that, and you say, oh, that's a great idea, I'll get to it. Man, that can bite you in the leg, that can be a snake bite. I've done this, and then I go, wow, what was I going to do? you know, because you get so involved in things. You get so involved in building. You really get to those focus points. You're in the flow and all these things they kind of say, you're the Jordan, whatever, of your family and building, and you're just like, man, get away, I'm building. You get into those focused moments and you don't necessarily want to come out of it. But if you do get that inspiration during that focused moment, you don't want to get out of it and you can lose the inspiring idea. Again, that's happened to me. I would say, hold on, take off on that little tangent. I do. Take off on that little tangent. That hugely inspiring moment is probably something that you're so focused on, you can bring back. I have found that. You can bring that back. Don't say, oh, if I shut this off, well, yeah, you could probably bring it back because it's so encompassing. But this little idea in the middle of it that hasn't been flushed out, that hasn't been taken care of, that hasn't really developed into something that you saw on that first little inspiration as it pops into your brain, if you don't take that, you might lose that idea. So that's just a little, I don't know. For me, it helps keep model building fresh. I do it every single day, except when I'm editing, which has been for 2 weeks. So that was kind of a stupid statement. But you see what I'm saying? You wanna keep it so that it doesn't become mundane. It doesn't become feeling like a job, feeling like a task that you don't want to get into. Those little things really help. So I think I've gone on and on and on about that for long enough. So let's look at more slides here. So that is my little guy. There's a little closer view there. So yeah, some painting and maybe some little babies down in the bottom and maybe some sleeping, something like that. And I think we'll be good. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Now, we are going to talk about these fine gentlemen. Like I said before, I love these inspiration points, and I wanted to bring them to you because I'd love to see you folks take a look at these gentlemen. And I've got 3 folks that are on YouTube. That is the American Genius, that's Chris. Link Scale Models, that's Link. And then Mad Genius Productions, that's Joe. Those 3, they're on YouTube. And so you can just go on YouTube and look at their channels. Now, Thomas Montgomery, I don't know if I didn't go into it. We had a nice, he did a nice text to me and talked to me about his models and stuff. He's on Facebook. And if you don't go to Facebook or you haven't done Facebook in a while, you're missing a lot. There's some great communities on Facebook specifically for modeling. And I know a lot of you are on that. I'm just saying there's maybe people that watch this that don't have a chance or haven't been to Facebook in a while. There's some wonderful modelers. There's some wonderful modeling communities on Facebook. And I think that's what Facebook, at least for me, it's not so much of, hey, I ate this, though there's some of that still. There's some really fun communities that talk about modeling. And I imagine there's going to be fun communities about, sock making. If you're into making socks, if that's your thing, you could find a community on Facebook. And I think that's what it's really kind of becoming. It's not this general, post out into the ether. It's more finding your group and settling in with your people. So that's kind of fun. I like that. So Thomas is there, and we're going to look at some of these guys, folks. Not a lot, because I want you to go there, and I want you to take these four folks, if you're interested, to go look there, because I really like them. So this is Chris, and you've seen Chris on before on the live stream. I say Christian because I when I met him, he just went by. He introduced himself as Christian instead of Chris. So, but it's Chris Jiminy Christmas, and the great thing here is Chris is painting. Well, he's building too, but his painting, and I've talked about this a lot. It is so much more what I would say technically beautiful. Is that the right word? It's okay. So when I paint something, when I build something, I kind of think of it like, I don't know, if you go close to a painting on a wall, you lose it. Like maybe not even a painting, but like the matte paintings behind a movie. You get up close to it and there's no detail. Because far away, your mind creates the detail where it's lacking. You're giving the inference of an imagery, and then your mind completes it. That's kind of what I do, because you look really tight on my models and dioramas and stuff. Yeah, it's like, you can see all that kind of stuff. Chris at the American Genius. He can paint like it's just small. It's perfect. There's no, I mean, I don't know how folks do that. I'm not there. I'm not that kind of a painter. I can't paint something so beautifully exact. I mean, you're looking at it. His canopies are the first thing that drew me in. You'll notice here that he's got this great mix of models and stuff like that. But he's got a couple of helicopters there, and he's got an F-22 or an F-4. I don't know air. I was in the military. I still don't know aircraft. But I looked at that canopy. I'm like, wait a minute, what? It just, because it had that reflective coating on it, like the real aircraft have. He had that, and I hadn't seen a lot of people that were able to pull that off, and he pulled it off beautifully. He polishes the plastic so it looks like glass. It does not look like plastic. And that's just the start. The decals, the hand painting, everything. It's just so precise, so precise. And when I was in the Army, you would have to spit shine your boots. And if somebody did it poorly, they said, what'd you do? Shine those with a chocolate bar, because they're like smudges and stuff like that. That's kind of how I feel next to Chris's stuff in how he's painting. So please go and look at the American Genius. Just phenomenal. He's got first place in there multiple times. I think he's got first place for multiple shows for the same model, as a matter of fact. So, I mean, he's legit. So take a look at Chris's site. Let's look at another one here. Because they're all different in how they inspire me. Now, this is Link. Now, Link is a watcher of the show. He comes from a family of artists. His father is a famous painter and stuff like that, has websites and stuff dedicated. It's really, really cool. But Link does vehicles and stuff. And Link works out of his apartment. He's got a small apartment. And part of, the great comments I got this last week, I was like, wink, Link. Sorry. Was from Link asking, hey, I'm in a small apartment. How do I build dioramas? He wants to do some. I looked at some videos this week, and he's looking at putting, stuff on a diorama and stuff like that, or just bases, nice bases, built around his really nice vehicles. And so that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on. That's part of what I was talking about, cutting and stuff like that. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But Link's really fun, real personable, and just car after car after car. And you're going to be able to see it. And a lot of times he'll feature multiple vehicles and progress in the same video. So go and check out Link. Link Scale Models. It's on YouTube. You're going to like it. I really do like Links. Now, we've got another gentleman here, that is on Facebook, and this is Thomas Montgomery. Now, Thomas wrote me a nice little thing here about his collection, and you're saying collection? What are you talking collection? Well, this. This is what I'm talking about. Let's go back to his picture. That's not his picture. Can you see what is on these tables? These tables, I was like, what is this? When I first saw the pictures on Facebook, I did not understand what I was seeing. Literally, the question was, what is this to myself? And as I looked further and I, started questioning, these are models that Thomas has built over 50 years. And I want you to read here, and I don't have all his pictures and stuff, but I know that you can find him on Facebook, and I again will give links and stuff like that. But I want to read to you, what he says about him. Now I don't know how I'm gonna read this and do it while I'm showing you pictures, but as a matter of fact, I can't. But anyway, it's not just him. He has a friend that has built them with him. And basically what he's doing here, I know how I can do this. You're just going to have to look at my mug as I read this. Sorry. Or you're going to have to look at my ear. I don't know. The collection started as a unit from Gross Deutschland. As the years went by, and so I think he was stationed in Germany, is what Bob, or I'm sorry, is what Thomas is saying. See, I'm getting confused. So it started in Germany, Greater Germany. As years went by, 73 till now. Then I got out of the Army in 73. He got out of the Army. Had a good job, bought those kits in bulk, so he got a really good price. Leads me to believe that most of these kits were bought at once. Or just repeatedly, because there's a lot of kits. I was reading World War II and building what I read about, have a ton of books, decided to build an offshoot from the Gross Deutschland for Escort Brigade. I was stationed in Germany. I was stationed in Berlin, for 3.5 years. I can't remember any of that kind of stuff. But anyway, so he's got 16,000 vehicles, 7,000 figures, 50 years to build. He's a collection. Used to do sand table war games, which would be really cool with 35th scale, stuff. He says artillery, battery, heavy towed guns with 4 guns, 5 batteries, WESP, WESPE. I don't know what that is. 3 battalion Hummels, all 4 gun units, 2 105 millimeter Stug battalions. It just goes on. And it's just this massive collection. So yeah, I gotta get back to a picture so you're not looking at me. So yeah, that is Thomas Montgomery, and you gotta go check it out. The thing that I thought was so amazing here is the dedication, number one, to a vision of I wanted to do a brigade. If you're not aware of the size of a brigade, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. There were 3 or 4 brigades in the entire division. That's a lot of dudes. And I think that was about 28,000 when I was there in the 80s. So 28,000 guys, divide by 4, take off 10, for like staff and, all that kind of stuff. So that brings his, units and stuff like that at that 7,000, figures and stuff like that. That's amazing to have that kind of vision and then to execute it. Now, it says he does have a partner in crime here doing it. And I want to make sure I get that. James Purden also is I didn't get the full story there. It sounded like they're building together, or it sounds like James maybe did the Luftwaffe stuff, so did the aircraft. But the other thing I'll say is, and this picture shows it, the quality is there. When you build a brigade of vehicles, and even says half are camouflage, half are standard unit colors. They're all numbered properly. Now think about this. When you're in a brigade, each company, unit, battalion, whatever, as that breaks down, they all have a numbering sequence that has to be adhered to. And in the military, you see it on the bumpers of vehicles. That's what you see those numbers on. They're unit markings. And it goes all the way down to, a company level and sometimes further in mechanized, military units. And so what he's saying here is every vehicle in this collection has been numbered properly, meaning that you might have two vehicles with the same vehicle number, maybe four if they're in the same company or something like that, depending on how many vehicles. The smaller the vehicle, the more you have typically. So, like little runarounds in Jeeps and that kind of stuff, but in German. And all their numbers are done. That to me is amazing. And I think very, very inspiring. I don't aspire toward that kind of a collection, but it is something that you can see and you look at and you're like, wow, that's awesome. That is, to me, it's not like a pride thing. It's more of an accomplishment thing. The pride in yourself for accomplishing. It's not pride as in, I'm so great. It's pride in the accomplishment that you set this task out and you did it. Wow, really, really cool. And the other thing I'll say about these is, as I'm looking at these different sites, I'm really enjoying reading a little bit about these folks and their personal stories. Very, very fun. So please take a look at Thomas Montgomery. The last gentleman that we're going to talk about is Joe at Mad Genius Productions. And I talked about this earlier on at the very start of our live stream. Joe, as I looked at his videos and stuff like that, I mean, he does vehicles, he does military. I think I saw a little bit of fantasy, but aircraft, stuff like that, dioramas. Great production in his videos, by the way. Great production. And one of the things that caught me was there was some good stuff that I remember that was very similar to Andy Klein of Andy's Hobby Headquarters, in showing how he does his build and stuff like that. I loved the tour that he shows of his model building area. He did a neat bench tour, and I'll let you look at it to discover some of the stuff that I thought was really, really neat, but sharing it with family and stuff I thought was great. And then the other thing that really impressed me about this was the quality. Great, fantastic quality. Can't lose that in any of this. But the group builds, the number of buddy and group builds, memorial builds, builds for special occasions that MPG has done. Is it MGP? Because he has MGP on his website too, Mad Genius Productions. I was very impressed with that. I just, I have participated in group builds before. And there are different types. There's sometimes 48-hour builds, there's 72-hour builds and stuff like that. And those are really fun and stuff like that. But then there's other group builds that are constantly going on, that are on a certain subject, about a certain person, about a certain aircraft, about a certain era, about a certain scale, anything from Tamiya, anything from Airfix, that kind of thing, always going on. And that makes it really, really fun. But it's those ones that are, you got 3 months. Those are the hardest group builds you'll ever do. Because it's not, at least for my kind of personality, because I'm like, well, I got time. The dumbest words that you could ever utter. I've got time. For me, that really works poorly because I'm doing it right at the end. Whereas those speed builds, you get in, you get jacked, you go and you do it, right? It's those ones that take a long time. Well, on those memorial builds, those can be that. And it's something that's a very giving thing. You're remembering someone, you're building maybe in their style or the stuff they love to build, or like their last kit, something like that. I've seen all of these. And to be part of something like that so many times, like Joe has, that's just, that says something about your heart. It really, really does. And I thought that was very, very appealing. So each of these, this week, as I got a chance to look at these four impressive modelers and thinking about them and thinking about other people that I'd love to show on the show, I really wanted you to know why I'm not just, showcasing these, but I'd love for you to go and really check them out. One of the other things, I forgot to say this about American Genius, Chris is bilingual. So I've told Chris, man, I think you've got a bunch of people out there that you could be speaking to that maybe can't get as much information because of language barriers and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of videos out there in English. There's a whole bunch out there in other languages too. But if you're a person that can cross those barriers, huge. And as I said before, his technical prowess and his technical artistic genius, and there's two geniuses in here, this week. I think those things are to be lauded, and I would really appreciate if you look and tell me about it. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm off my rocker. But these fine people, I think, are really worth a second look. So, and nobody paid me to say that. So there you go. Let's go back here. And I got some other things to talk about. So, favorite tools. I love talking about tools. And I had two really nice gentlemen come up to me at the last show that I went to in February this year. And they said, "What's your favorite tool?" And I'm like, "Oh, right here." And I showed it to them. And I said, "It's this, and we're going to talk about it today." But you need to take this a little bit to heart. It's what you do with the tool that makes it your favorite tool. It's what you're doing at the time that makes your favorite tool. I haven't touched this tool for months, longer, because I'm done working on what I was working with this tool. It doesn't make it the less of a tool. But anyway, let's talk about that. And I just want to go over these. So these are my favorite tools. And why they are my favorite tools is what we'll talk about. So first one on the bottom here is, this is just a short X-Acto knife. It's just your standard old X-Acto knife, nothing nutty about it. They don't sell them. I just lopped it off. And it is so great because it can fit in the palm of your hand like this, okay, to get into awkward areas. It just really works well for that for me. And so I've got just a short X-Acto knife, standard X-Acto knife. Just lopped it off, sanded it, buffed it a little bit, good to go. The next one up from that is your standard Tamiya paint tool. Have you seen these? These are, they're all over, and they're great. It's got a little scoop on this side, which is fantastic for sculpting putties and stuff like that. This thing is just so great. When I make leaves, if you've ever made leaves for a project like jungle leaves or something like that, you make them out of paper, basically, punch them out. I've got punches over here. Did it back a long time ago. But the end of this, basically, so you've got your little leaf cut out. And I've got this in a video, and I should have been prepared. But basically, you got your leaf punched out, cut out. It's all been painted, so it's the right color and everything. But then I take this rounded spoon-like end and roll it right down the middle of that leaf on my finger, not on like a hard surface, but on my finger. And what it does is it shapes the leaf like a leaf. And all of a sudden, this punched out little leaf that out of paper that looked like a punched out leaf out of paper looks like a leaf. Tamiya tool. So yeah, the Tamiya paint tool is great. I use it for all kinds of stuff. Stirring paint, certainly. Pouring paint, certainly. Scraping glue off of my glue palette. I use like a piece of glass sometimes and dump a little bit of glue on it, and then as it dries, I scrape it off. Just a great tool. So next tool up is this tool, and this tool is called the Master Tools 9928. It's like $8. It is made of steel. It is, I don't know if it's stainless, but it doesn't rust. Though I take care of mine. But it is a steel bar, and then that is the tip, and that I will polish, and I will sharpen this, and it's just, it's just that angle. There's no compound edges or angles to it. But this thing, you see that tip? That is my primary tool when I'm working with figures. When I'm working with figures, this is in my hand. I've used it for so many different things on a figure, it's hard to pull one, but when I'm carving hair, I've done videos where I show you how to carve hair. You've got your figure and it's got a flat top because you put a hat on it, and then it's got a guy with a hat. Well, if you don't put the hat on him, he's got a flat head. So I've shown in my videos, how to put a piece of plastic on it, shape it like a skull, and then carve hair into it. This is what I use. The other thing is that tip is so tiny, you can redefine eyes. You can redefine a smile. You can put nostrils in a nose. You can make the ear stand out. All with this. The sleeve, so you've seen this many times. On a sleeve, the sleeve hangs off the arm of your figure, and then the sleeve kind of hangs down like that, and then that's just solid plastic, right? Now some folks will just clip off the hand, take a moto drill, whatever, drill that out, and then remount the hand in there. Well, you can, and that's perfectly fine. But this little guy right here will get in there, and it's tiny enough to get in there to dig all that out to look like it's open. That the sleeve goes back far enough to give the shadow to look like it's an open sleeve. Same thing on pant legs. On shorts, you redefine, the shorts on the leg. The SAS guys in the Tamiya Jeep, that one famous kit. I hope everybody's built it. It's a brilliant kit, and it's got the two SAS guys in there, and they're in their big old shorts. Well, you use these to define their legs, to define the socks that are coming on. I mean, just brilliant tool. But I fear that if you're not, you buy this tool, you source this tool or whatever, because I'll probably put a link to it, affiliate marketing as it is. So I'll put a link into this. But if you buy it for that purpose. Buy it because you're working on figures. Now, I use it for other stuff. The other thing that's really nice about this is the perfect size, for me at least, to make barbed wire. So the last time I made barbed wire, I came up with this really, really nice trick. I've been doing barbed wire, my own custom barbed wire, for years. My very first barbed wire I ever did in 2019, I made my own. But I've since upgraded that, and I use this as the tool to make barbed wire. And you got to look at the video. It's in my it is in my World War I trench in 4 steps video. And in that, I show you how to use this tool to make barbed wire. I'll have to show you again. I'll have to, make a video of that, or pull parts of that out to show you in a separate video, just from that video. But it is such an easy way to do it, and it makes very good barbed wire where you're not having to do it with your hands so much. I'm 60, And thank goodness my hands haven't, I can keep steady hands, you know, because that is my best friend Tom has that problem. And that's hard for a lot of folks. But one thing that I do have is they cramp. If I'm holding something small, you know, you're holding something small for too long, and man, my hands cramp up. Well, using these tools and these techniques make it a lot easier to do those tasks so your hands don't cramp up. So that's just something I thought to bring in there too. Now, let me go over here. I'm going to show you one other thing. These little guys are my favorite little carving tools. And the big difference here is I'm going to get another knife here. So I think lots and lots of folks have seen, you know, your standard edge blades here. And I'm sorry, there's one other tool I got to talk about, but we'll get to that. But they have just like the regular kind of a chisel point blade. The problem with this blade is it's a little bit flexible, right? It moves a bit. These guys, these guys are, I don't know, eighth of an inch thick. These things are super thick. They're super stable. This is one of the things that I really use it for. So on this chisel, you look, here's just the flat part of the body. Let's see if I can get that a little closer. There's the flat part of the body. There's the side angle. And you see this edge right there that's chiseled, but then on the back side, that's the beauty of it. That thing is just dead flat. And all chisels are that way. They have to be that way as long as they're a straight chisel. But the cool thing about that is when you're modeling, to be able to take that super flat side with a bevel up and then go along something and cut at the level of the flat side you're indexing on, brilliant. It's hard to do with this because it's just not as long. And again, there's that flexibility point to it. These are super, you know, sturdy and thick and stuff like that. They hold an edge like nobody's business because they're high carbon steel. Well, it's not high carbon steel. There's a certain kind of steel that Lee Valley uses. These are Lee Valley chisels. But this little set, it's about $40. Perfectly in line with some of the tools that we already buy in the industry. They're in the woodworking industry from Lee Valley Tools. They're miniature chisel set, but I got to tell you, I use them on every project, everything I do. They're so much better just to hold in your hand sometimes when you're cleaning parts, because they're great for cleaning parts too, because there's three sizes. So I'm cleaning my parts, I'm getting flash off my parts. Certainly, I use this, but there's a lot of instances where that end blade instead of a side blade is just preferable. So that's just some of my favorite tools. Okay, I've got some comments here. And this is a while ago. Sorry, Bob, for not putting this up earlier. He says, "Thank you for being there to share all of us and pass along your knowledge." Well, thank you, Bob. That's really, really nice. I mean, I'm doing this because other people, you know, have taught me stuff, and I've been able to find that inspiration from other things. That's why we're, you know, talking about these people. I think that's why, you know, you say that too. But yeah, that's just a big deal. Oh, sorry. Thank you for putting up sites for example of the craft. Thanks very much. Yeah, I think they are great sites. And I got to make sure I get those links in there. I'm bad at that. I got to get that after the video post, but I will. And yeah, go to those sites. I think you're going to love them. This is great. McDonald's had little spoons like that for stirring coffee. They disgruntled it because people misused it for drug use. I remember that. That was a big thing. Like when we were in school and stuff like that, people would always talk about it. Not the drug use part, but people would use it for that, but we weren't. Anyway, you get where I'm going with this crazy. Yeah. But yes, that's funny. Because I remember those little stirrers had a little M on the other side and this little tiny spoon. It's really funny. Okay. So the other thing is that question that I had from Link, which were, what, I'm in an apartment. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to show you the right pictures. I am in an apartment what can I use for diorama building? And this got me on this little test, if you will. I just thought to myself, okay, what are easily accessible tools where you don't have like a table saw, you don't have a big shop, you don't have something like that, which is the majority of people, of course. What can you use to cut the foam, the pink foam? Because that's, I mean, a huge element. Yes, there's other things that you can use in lieu of pink foam. You're going to have to decide if it works for you, because the primary thing that I think you cannot get away from in working with this pink foam is it goes everywhere. It goes absolutely everywhere. It is staticky. It sticks to your hands. It sticks to your clothing. It sticks to everything. And if it gets in the air and you breathe it in, you know, not good. So you've got to have a shop vac. You've got to have some way of doing it. I don't care if you're using power tools on it, because one of the things I'm going to show you are some of the tools here, you know. This is just a huge example, but this is an example of something I've used on my dioramas. Before I started using a sander and before I started using my big, you know, Roto Fortum, the rotary tool that I use on carving my dioramas, I use this on that foam. And it does a fantastic job. I mean, these are heavy-duty steel brushes. This is like a steel brush you clean the grill at a restaurant, you know, the big, huge grill for hamburgers and stuff in a restaurant. This is, you know, one of those things. That's what you use this for. So it's going to stand up. Those are really stiff. And those bristles will just pell-mell take that stuff away. But you're not getting rid of that stuff, the little stuff of foam that comes off that sticks to virtually everything, go up your nose, whatever, in your hair, if you don't have a shop vac. And so that's why I said, you know, the very first thing is a shop vac. But having that been said, then I looked at saws, just typical saws that you could get. And now maybe you may not think this is typical, but it is. Any hardware store these days, you're going to find a Japanese style saw. And the reason they're so great is the kerf. The kerf is the thickness of the blade, but not exactly. It's actually what the kerf refers to is the amount of material that's removed by the blade, which can actually exceed the thickness of the blade because of teeth being kind of angled out in their pattern to cut. So, but the point is, being a thinner blade, it's got a thinner kerf. So I thought maybe that will work. We'll give it a shot. Well, no. That was from using a coping saw. You know, that's a very easy to find. And this next one, sorry, I got to go to this other screen. This is from the Japanese pole saw. And what happens here is when you're going through the material, the little pieces don't shear off. They catch and they pull. And as they pull, that's where that horrible, you know, mess comes from. I mean, can you sand it? Sure. You can sand that down. Going to have a lot of stuff going everywhere. You know, again, need that vacuum, some kind of way to collect it. But the problem with sanding is it also makes it hard to get a smooth surface. Sanding doesn't give you smooth flat. It gives you smooth surface because it's reducing, you know, the abraded surface. But it doesn't keep it flat. Most times when you sand something, especially a larger area, even this large of an area, 2 inches, it's going to round. You know, it's just going to round. So it's just not that viable of a solution. So the last one is well, it's not the last one, but the last kind of analog non-tool type is just this saw. Or it's not a saw, it's a blade. And this is an Excel blade. I specifically call out X-Acto because I actually like X-Acto blades better than Excel blades for the little guys. These guys. That is not from any sort of scientific testing or anything. I've not even looked at the numbers. My dad, when I was 9 years old, got me an X-Acto set. That's why I get X-Acto blades and X-Acto handles. Okay? It's perfectly a choice based on emotion, not data. But this blade is an Excel blade, X-Acto's competitor, and I wouldn't change from it because it's brilliant. So now there's a couple of things about this blade. Number one, when it cuts, and I'm going to go to a picture because it's better and you can see it better. When I cut with this, with that Excel blade, that's the edge I'm able to get. Okay? So now you'll see in part of it, and that's why I've got it here to show you, you'll see in part of it, it is messed up. And what it is because as I'm going through this, I'm going to try to simulate this. As I'm going through this, what's happening is it's 2 inches thick, so I'm kind of sawing and making these marks because I'm at the end of the blade and that's not sharp. So it's not cutting, it's pushing. And that's just something that can happen in cutting your styrofoam. So even with the best, just look at the cut quality. It's brilliant, in the upper left and everything but the lower, right bottom corner. Everything else looks great, but you can't get around that because number one, using 2-inch foam is much more cost effective. It is easier to cut with this, but you also have to be very careful because it dulls very quickly. I can sharpen this thing because I've got sharpening stuff here. I've even got a sharpening stone on the bench here, so just keep a little sharpening stone, and it doesn't take long to figure it out. But I also wax this blade, so it goes through there much better. I have different waxes. I don't have it here. It's on the... Well, I do have one here. Sorry. This is just beeswax. And what I do is I take just regular beeswax. You can get online. You can get it at a woodworking store or whatever. And I'll heat it up in a double boiler. Don't ask me how to do it because it's dangerous as all heck. Waxes can explode. So yeah, you got to be really careful. Read up on that before you do it. What I do is I do a little double boiler, no open flame. When it is all melted, then I pour in a little bit of mineral spirits and then I mix it up. And what the mineral spirits do is they give it a softer consistency. If you've ever used paste wax uses the same kind of a thing. They use a solvent. It might be, I do not know if it's mineral spirits. I think it is, but it may have other things in it. But that's what's in there, and it allows the wax to then be soft and flowable. So I can just dip the end of my finger in this, and then I put it on the blade. And then what happens with the wax and the carrier, the solvent, just like in a paint, the carrier will gas off. The carrier, the solvent that's in your wax will gas off, leaving just the wax. And it's a harder wax at that point because the carrier is gone. What you do then is you clean off your blade and then you buff it. Be careful buffing a sharp X-Acto style blade or an Excel blade, but then you buff it. And then what is left there is a very, very nicely slick side to the blade. That is not the only reason it goes through this so smoothly, but it helps. Because if you don't, just the side of your blade can grab in this pink foam and mess it up. Now, why is all of this such an issue? Why are we trying so hard to get a clean cut there? Because a lot of the times the cuts are what's defining the side of your diorama. And if they are exposed, yes, you can cover them like this, you can paint them black, whatever. But even when you do that, I've got plenty of dioramas with this as an example. The side of this is that SAS Jeep that I was talking about earlier. I don't have the figures in it, but the sides of this blackened foam here, if it's thick and you're working with it, what I find is fingernails. Not real, they're not like embedded in there. It's just the imprints from fingernails. You grab it, you're moving, you're touching it. You know, if you go too far with your finger, you can just press in on this stuff. It's not a hard surface. You know, it will bend, not bend, but it will dent. So I see that on here. So that's one of the things that you got to be careful of, because anything, any dent, anything like that, you know, when you're cutting it, if it gets marred like that, all that stuff's going to show up. Yes, you can put putties in it, but it's just another process. So my end perfect solution that again is not for everyone is this. I have used this thing so much since I got it. It's the Proxon hot wire cutting. I don't know what the heck they call it. It's thermocut. It's the Proxon thermocut. And it has the hot wire that comes up. It comes with an extra spool of that wire. I've not used it up, but I use it as much as anybody, I would think. I'm still using that wire. I think it's a tungsten wire that it uses, to keep that heat without, blowing out. It's got a variable thermostat on it, because you want the heat in this thing to be just enough to melt at a specific feed rate. The feed rate being the speed in which you want consistent of you pushing it through and cutting. But with a consistent feed rate, what you want to do is make sure that temperature is as low as possible. So if you do have a little bit of a pause, it doesn't burn, because what happens is that wire, if you pause for a little bit, it's still hot. It just starts making a big hole, and you will get little divots in the side of it. But that being said, for a small shop, for just, you're in an apartment, this thing is fantastic. Caution, you do need to vent. You need to have your windows open. You need to have a fan on, because burning this stuff, it's delivering smoke. I've been in here in the winter and I start doing this and I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. So I move over toward a window, So vent if you're doing this stuff indoors. But it is a great machine. It's not inexpensive. It's not ridiculously expensive. It sure is a heck lot cheaper than other alternatives. And there's even alternatives for this. Woodland Scenics, not even Proxon, but Woodland Scenics makes some handheld wire cutters. It's got like this big bow on it. And that could work for a lot of people. Those are super affordable. It's like, and I talk about affordability a lot, because even when I was, doing this as just a hobby and working, making a really, really good wage, I still had a budget for modeling and crafts and everything that I did out here. I still had a budget. So that's why I say budget. You can make modeling in your home an unwanted guest if you're not careful. So that's why I'm always talking about budgeting and trying to find the lowest price I can for you on different things that I use, and for myself, because I buy the right tool. And I don't like to buy twice, but I also am very price conscious. Always have been, because, like I say, we've always had I had an allowance. Both Mrs. Muddlecraft and I both had an allowance all the years we have been working. Literally since before we got married, for 1 year, there was this mark, we marked it. We've been on a budget together, and each of us gets X number of dollars per payday. That's it. Our entire marriage. We have been married since 97, but we were together since 90. So, yeah, that makes it so that it's not an unwelcome guest in the home. Because I know some folks that have those problems with hobbies. and that can make it difficult. So put yourself on a budget if you're not. Anyway, that's just bad advice or it's good advice, but I'm not a person that tells you to do things. You know what I mean? So that's why I say it. Anyway, Will says, my dad and I have handheld hot wire cutter. We even built a small table feed for it for longer straight cuts. There you go. I think that's a great idea. Get that little handheld because it is a bow. And I can see where you could make, a little feed table, which would be brilliant. So you can cut strips and stuff. And that is, when you're starting to look at like cutting bricks and stuff like that, you want to do bricks to build up or something where you're going to tumble it like cobbles, something like that. Being able to cut strips out of this thing is amazing. I got to tell you, that works. So that's really cool, Will. Okay, so I think we're about there, folks. I think we're about through everything I got to say and talk to you about. I'm going to go down here to this last slide. It's just a reminder that Patreon is moving. And I did want to say hello and thank you to my YouTube members because I did get, Mad Genius Productions. That's Joe. He was in the show today. Nancy B, Bob Harris, John Robeck, and Bushranger. Those are all my YouTube members. And Patreon, they're still there, of course. John Robeck, Evan Davies, Stephen Robbins, Scott Gentry, Neil Makar, I think it's Makar, Angela Shortall, Joshua Scott, Mark Doramus, Adriana Bruni, Mike Dye, Martin Holst, Jake McKee, Russ, and Scooter Pumpkin Shooter. Thanks so much, folks, for being a part of that Patreon page, and I really do appreciate it. It's just for me, it just wasn't working, and I want it to work for both of us, and I don't think it was working for enough people too. So that was part of it, So anyway, that's about it, folks. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have family coming over, so I'm going to get out and do more yard work. But after this, I think this weekend I've got that new video popping up. I'm going to go back to that real quick. That new video is coming out tomorrow morning. It's right here. And that is part 2 of the West Texas foliage. That'll be available tomorrow. And if you are a YouTube member, the build a display base, I got that in there last night. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It is not the end of summer. It is just August 1st. We still got a whole good old month before Labor Day, which is like the last big summer weekend. So enjoy the heck out of it and be careful out there. Get some modeling in too. You don't want to waste your modeling time. We'll see ya.